Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to run through some updates with First Graphene and what we've been up to over the last sort of 4 to 6 months. There has been a lot happening in that period, and I think it was about time we gave you an update, a bit more depth, and have a Q&A session following this. I'm going to run through 4 different areas today. Firstly, on our new clients, products and applications, so as we build our revenue base. Secondly, the reasons and sort of drivers behind the Mito acquisition out of the US. A US expansion, obviously the acquisition with Mito sort of drives a bit more interest in the US. And then lastly, how we're broadening our portfolio. We're adding to what we offer to our clients to make sure we tailor things to their requirements. So with respect to new applications and clients, as of today, we have about 38 different clients that are purchasing our Pure Graph materials. Now that is spread across about 25 unique applications, whether it being cement and concrete or in polymers, etc. Each one of those applications represent pretty significant investment by us, but also our clients. Each time we develop an application, we open doors to more clients. Our existing applications have expanded quite dramatically over the last 12 to 24 months. As people that follow us will know, we have a lot of work happening in the United Kingdom around the cement and concrete space. We currently sell, which is primarily project-based, into things like road-based structural elements, concrete roof tiles, and shotcrete applications. Now that's been through partners like Breeden, but into end-use clients like FP McCann and Morgan Sindall. In the elastomer space, we've continued to build on our early wins with people like NewGen in the sacrificial wear liners, chute liners, screen decks, and also into spray-on polyurea coatings. That has continued to grow, and although we don't announce those regularly enough, we're often bound by NDAs, etc., we keep growing that segment. In the energy generation space, we're selling into perovskite cells with our partner HaloCell, and that continues to grow as they move towards a reel-to-reel manufacturing process. In the composite space, our early wins in the swimming pool area has grown, but we're also now selling into tanks, pressure vessels, piping, sports equipment, and also into architectural structures. In the coatings and textiles segment, we have grown our client base into further textiles. In the polymers space, we've continued to grow our work in solar thermal roof tiles with our partner in the UK, and also fire retardant building materials have been quite significant in the last few months. What is exciting is that over the last 4 months, we have added significant numbers of new clients by comparison to our overall process in the last few years. We have added in a new carbon fibre program, which is in the use of oil and gas drill collars. So this is a collar that you put on drill bits that go onto the ground. That has grown, and it's a high abrasion resistant application, and it's the first carbon fibre client that we have secured. In the textile space, we've added 5 new clients. 4 are in the sporting wear, so this is for thermal relief and thermal control in sportswear, and also a general textile manufacturer. In the footwear space, I'm pleased to announce that we've added Flux Footwear to it, which is a sporting and leisure brand in the United States, and they have started to use our material in their soles. In the sporting equipment, mainly through the acquisition of Mito, we've added 3 clients so far, which is Folsom Custom Skis, Parla Skis and Snowboards, and St. Croix Fishing Rods. So these are all sporting equipment brands, quite boutique, but nonetheless very important to our growth. Overall, our revenue stream is diversifying. If you look at the likes of cement and concrete all the way through to conductive inks, and in some cases the boutique sporting wear, it is a very diverse set of products and client requirements. I appreciate we're going through a lot of detail here, but the overall point is that our revenue is increasing and our client base is diversifying. In terms of sales strategy, we're working on sort of 4 key points at this point in time. Firstly is the conversion of our 50 most advanced applications and clients. This represents somewhere between 10 and 20 million in revenue, and it is products and applications that are at advanced stages of validation, marketing launch, or compliance. Secondly, we're advancing the integration of our acquisitions. This is the Mito customer base and pipeline, and also the Ionic coatings business. Third is a more aggressive expansion into the US. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but the expansion to the US is a significant market for us and is growing in focus. And fourth is further focus and development of the work and success we've had in the United Kingdom around the cement and concrete segment. When we look at the UK, it represents a very significant revenue opportunity for us in terms of what we do with Breedon, but also our end-use clients. But the size of the UK market in cement and concrete is actually small by global comparisons. If we look at Australia and New Zealand combined, it's about a similar size. If we look at the United States, many times larger, and then again China, we're talking up to 70 billion. Now those numbers are not target market, those are revenue potential for our company. In the elastomers space, as I mentioned about the growing footwear segment, we sometimes underestimate the potential in the footwear area. At the moment, when we look at global footwear brands, we're talking about a $2 billion opportunity for us. So we continually drive that. We have 3 footwear companies in our portfolio now. In the composite space, there is a very diverse range of opportunities from things like sporting goods, which our Mito product line is successfully penetrated, but also into the transportation segment, into aerospace, into architectural structures. They all represent very, very large market opportunities for us. So that's a point of focus also in the United States. On to the acquisition of Mito. Mito, as I've mentioned, is a United States-based company out of Indiana and have spent the last 8 to 10 years developing a functionalized graphene product. So it is just an expansion of our current product line. We have acquired their technology to specifically expand the product offering we make, also as a form of inorganic revenue growth, which is added to it. It also comes with a pipeline of opportunity deep within the segments we're targeting, things like transportation, aerospace, defence, all in the United States. The acquisition also comes with a presence in the United States, both from a toll manufactured product standpoint, but also with our recent hire, Hayley Keith, who's going to lead our US business. The Mito product line is something that has been validated through early stage clients like the skis and fishing rods, what I would consider boutique consumer goods, and is now positioned well with a very, very strong pipeline of opportunity in the industrial spaces. US expansion has become quite important to us. We have focused most of our efforts to date in Australia and in Europe and the UK. The drivers for this is the acceptance to new materials, to doing new things and promoting new technologies, which has been successful. But there is no way to ignore the fact that the US represents a much larger business opportunity, as does areas like China in the cement and concrete space. One thing that we've noticed recently is the increase in interest in graphene in the United States. A lot of that is driven by interest out of the defence industry. Over the past 6 to 12 months, we've spent quite a bit of time engaging with DARPA, the defence agency in the United States, for research and looking at new materials. And our interaction with them has been very, very positive and drives us to more seriously consider the defence segment in the United States. We have had a distributor in the United States for some time, which has not been successful, and we are changing our position on that, going direct with a presence with Hayley based in the United States to look at the market more seriously. The segments that we look at globally, primarily in the UK and Europe, are replicated in the United States just on a higher sort of revenue opportunity basis. So this is not a foray into North America with new ideas or new risky applications. It's proven applications where we know our material works and we are already generating revenue from. With respect to our acquisition of Mito and also the expansion of our product line, one thing that is very apparent after being in this industry for some time is the need for a broad array of materials. Graphene is not all created equally. Supplier A versus supplier B's graphene is very, very different. And we have learnt that applying our material into many applications, it often requires a different material. PureGraph still forms the basis of our product portfolio, but we have expanded that with the acquisition of Mito that covers graphene oxide and functionalized graphene. These just give us a broader range of materials to be successful. When we compare ourselves to potential competitors that offer 1 or 2 types of graphene, our opportunity for applications is far, far broader now and will continue to grow as we add more types of graphitic materials into our portfolio. With respect to opportunities and the overall outlook, we have a strategic advantage over the depth of our clients. As it stands, we have over 38 different clients buying our products. We have 50 in that sort of marketing regulatory approval status that will generate our revenue in the next 12 to 18 months. But we have a very deep pipeline of nearly 700 clients validating our materials. This gives us in excess of a 3-year head start on most of our competitors. Application of graphene into end products is an extensive process. Where we're focused is moving those opportunities into commercial reality. Our role in that adoption is supporting those clients through that development period. Now, that development period can be as short as 3 months, but also as long as 3 years. What we see is hugely advantageous from a strategic point of view is as we grow our application base, proven areas that graphene can work, we can then use that to help clients accelerate their adoption. I appreciate there's a lot of information for the audience, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A session. But the key takeaways from this are, firstly, we have an established application and revenue base that we are building on month by month. Secondly, acquisition becomes part of our strategy moving forward, and we are executing that as we go. And lastly, product portfolio expansion has become very, very important to us. Thank you for your time, and we'll take some questions now. Right, let's just run through some Q&A. So the first up, I've got a question from Deepak talking about the Indian market and the infrastructure demands there looking forward. In terms of cement and concrete and infrastructure, our approach to different geographical markets depend on those, the sort of differing strategies across them. So if we look at our work in the UK demand for graphene and cement is really pushed around CO2 reduction. So between now and out for the next sort of 5+ years, the emissions tax or carbon dioxide emissions tax in the UK steadily increases. That means the price of cement steadily goes up. Where we can help is reduce the CO2. So in that region, that's the core driver for it. If we look at other regions, you've got people in our clients in South Africa. They are looking for protection against moisture absorption. In Denmark, they're looking for early stage strength. So they're talking about rapid set concrete. So it does differ. At the moment, in India, we probably have somewhere between 15 and 20 cement manufacturers evaluating our product. Now, obviously, with the likes of India, I guess the value perception of what advantages graphene brings to concrete differs. And what we've seen so far is they're looking for stronger concrete. Now, we can support that out of Western Australia to a certain sort of level, but it naturally makes sense that we evaluate geographical regions on their potential. So in the UK, we have a large potential opportunity. We have a fantastic partner, Breeden, who probably drives up to 50% of the cement manufacturing in the UK. And you would assume that it makes sense to put a plant there. But the biggest expense in our cement product is energy. And so we're very cognizant of how we balance out freight costs, energy costs. So in India, we've signed an agreement with Ciron as a distributor, and they've got the opportunity, once they demonstrate demand for our product, to negotiate either a licensing agreement or JV around the manufacture of our product in India for the Indian market. The same applies for China. China is by far the largest cement manufacturing global by a factor of probably 30 or 40 over the United States. That obviously makes sense for a partner, JV, or partner to manufacture in country for China, etc. So very much driven by, I guess, the strategies around those. Another question is, do we have the intent to expand into the US? It's a good question. Now, just on the back of what I've said about cement manufacturing, the same applies to our product line. It's definitely driven by the geographical strategy. With the US, Americans typically like to buy American-made. They like to be sort of that engagement process and sales process through an American style, and that's what Hayley brings to us. So she'll be able to manage that quite well. But we also have the fact of, with a fairly high focus on the defence industry, and this is through things like EMI shielding, composites in the aerospace, etc. There is always that probable need to manufacture in country? So the answer to it is yes. That is something we are evaluating at the moment. How do we structure an entity in the US to manufacture our products? What's the implications for Henderson, etc.? So, if you look across the globe in terms of what we spend our time at the moment doing is evaluating those sort of things. What makes sense to manufacture in the US outside of what we already do through Mito and our toll manufacturer, what we do in China to tackle the cement and concrete industry, in the UK to support Breedon and the growing demand there. Another question here is market sizes and not being able to ignore China. So for those that haven't looked at the presentation, so when we look at just the cement and concrete space, so outside of all of our opportunities, cement and concrete makes the potential there has the highest volume by a significant factor. It is a different type of market. You're talking about selling into a commoditized product as opposed to a high-value nanomaterials defense application, let's say. So with China, it is the sort of figure we put on potential revenue. We calculate that by saying how much cement does a geographical region use. So in the UK, it's about 16 million tonnes of cement annually. How much graphene would go into that? What do we charge? It works out to be about a sort of $300 to $360 million opportunity US dollars for us. That's our opportunity. We take market penetration as a percentage of that. In the US, it's about 1.8 billion. And then in China, it's about 70 billion. Now, from previous experience, personal experience here, trying to sell into China and setting up entities within China to be successful, it's a tough process. And so when we look at that and just the sheer scale of it, we need partners. And so we spend a portion of our time at the moment trying to identify who those partners could be, should be, that have an established business, an understanding of nanomaterials, that has access into the cement and concrete market. And so we're pushing down that sort of channel as opposed to going direct into China. Another question we have here is regarding FP McCann and our work in the concrete roof tiles. So over the last sort of 4 years, we've had an investment in the development of a cement product. Now, our cement additive product is now completed. It is commercially available. And it's something that we're getting a lot of interest out, not only in the UK, but all through Europe, and now expanding into the US and South Africa. Part of that process has been to, I guess, reassure and build confidence over the performance of our product into Breedon. Now, for those that don't know, putting graphene in cement and concrete is a process that's sort of fraught a bit with irregularities. So as an admixture into concrete, it's often very difficult to get repeatable performance. That's why we've chosen the cement path, which works well for us. And from that, we have then been talking to end clients, the likes of FP McCann or Morgan Sindall, who are actively using that. FP McCann have now manufactured about 10,000 roof tiles. Through our work with Breedon, we have produced about 20,000 tonnes of cement. Now, that is through our development work, through different loadings, different product types, etc. And it has resulted in us having a custom product for that segment. With FP McCann, they have been through that trial process. They have been very public about the success they've had there. They've achieved great results both on cement reduction, CO2 emissions reduction, etc., and have been quite vocal about the fact that they want to progress that with a graphene enhanced product. So we work through a negotiation process with Breedon and FP McCann at the moment. You have to remember that our client is Breedon. We sell into that because their cement production capability, and then they on-sell that to FP McCann, so it's a complicated negotiation. We also work to look at alternatives to get in there that are not reliant solely on the cement manufacturing process, so more additives. And so we sort of hedge our bets there, not only for the UK, but for global purposes. So there's a bit of activity in that area and a lot of people trialling that type of material. Another question from Deepak. If we did go into China, how confident are you in protecting your IP? Great question. So what we are talking about going to China is a set product, is our PureGraph SEM product, which is made specifically for cement. There is no other area that uses that product. Also driven by the cost constraints of the cement industry, we make it slightly different. We sort of pride ourselves in having a unique product that enables us to perform well. And our intent to go into that would be under a joint venture or licensing arrangement. So, whilst there would always be the risk of somebody trying to reverse engineer a nanomaterial, it's very difficult to do. And if we're in a joint venture, we have a certain degree of protection around that. Just a question from Russell regarding Kanos technology. This has been announced previously that we are not currently progressing Kanos as a manufacturing process for graphene. This is several years old now. The point of it is that it's not a scalable process. Many people dream up weird and wonderful ways to make graphene, and there always is links to what is commercially sensible, what is process scalable, and Kanos did not meet those types of requirements. Yes, it would produce a certain type of graphene. It was expensive to produce and produce very, very low quantities. When we talk about opportunities, we require people to have some significant demand in their pipe. If somebody's going to use 1 kilogram a year, it's really a distraction to us, and that's sort of where Kanos falls for us. Another one here is, in all the markets, what is the competitive landscape and how does FGR differ, and how's that changed over the past 5 years? We pride ourselves in being commercially focused. Our intent, when we go into the office in the morning, our intent there is to drive commercial sales. That is what we're all about. When we look back at competitors now and in the last 5+ years, a lot of people have developed small ways of producing graphene, only to then fail to seek demand on that. And at the same time, they've had the requirement to scale, the cost of scaling, the distraction of that. And we've had the luxury of having a scaled facility. When I joined here, we had 20 tonne of capacity. That's now at 100. And it sits there. It doesn't require any focus on our point. What our people in the factory do is focus on how to make our graphene cheaper, use less energy, make more of it, etc. But it's not a big drain on CapEx. So we have the luxury of just focusing on commercial. What we also don't do is R&D for the sake of R&D. A lot of graphene companies are still heavily entwined in academia and are still trying to prove where their graphene works. Now, as I've said many times, not all graphene is created equally, so you do need to understand your product, and that is something that we have achieved. And we have that sort of building library of applications that are proven. So having paying clients and growing that is useful. That's ultimately the goal. But we have those applications that says we know what works and what product selection and the loading and the dispersion techniques. And that is deep now. That's over 750 people that have been through that process, companies been through that process to understand what works and what doesn't work. And so that's a real strength for us. Everything we do has to have a commercial client attached to the end of it. We don't R&D or do R&D for the sake of R&D because it seems interesting. We stay away from that. Even the grant funding that we apply for is linked directly to a client. How can this grant funding program develop something that is useful for this client? And that is what we're all about. So our strength is we have that scale. We don't need to worry about increasing scale outside of cement and concrete. We have a very large library of applications, where it works, how it works, and what material to select. And then our product breadth. And as I've touched on through the Mito acquisition, is about getting as many products as we can. PureGraph still makes up the bulk of what we offer to our market, but adding in products like functionalized graphene and graphene oxide from Mito just extends our potential success pipeline further. Just another question. There seems to be a heightened interest in acquisitions. I don't think it's not right to say there's a heightened interest. It has been more public recently because we've executed 2 acquisitions. We do spend a bit of time evaluating companies that could, complement our product portfolio or technology. The Mito acquisition is probably the most significant one that we've done, and it's been in a discussion for a long period of time. We've been selling PureGraph product as feedstock to Mito for a while. But it really is, when it reaches that point where it makes perfect sense that it's complementary, that it brings revenue for inorganic revenue growth, that's very important to us. And that it is in a position that makes sense that we can, I guess, acquire the revenue, the technology, without the OPEX that goes with it. Those are of interest to us. There is definitely, I guess, a consolidation or a thinning of people in the space. The previous hype of graphene some 6-7 years ago, a lot of those players were not in that space. Okay, I'll take one more question. Do you have any Australian companies interested in our products? Absolutely. Our largest revenue stream today is from Australian clients. 2 markets that are very accessible to us because of our geographical location of our factory is in the composite space and in the mining elastomeric space. So driven by mining requirements about sacrificial wear liners or abrasion-resistant surfaces or fire retardancy, we have a really great opportunity. It's in the several hundreds of millions that are accessible clients. We speak to them regularly and have a good depth of people or products under trial. And the composite space in Australia is big. We make a lot of swimming pools and a lot of boats within Australia. Right, thank you for your time, that's appreciated. Please note that I'm always contactable. My details are generally available on all our press releases. If you do have questions, fire them through, I'm happy to answer. And I look forward to your ongoing support. Thank you.